to RE/MAX Real Estate Insights. I'm your host, Jeanette Schneider. 'Tis the season to think about buying a home, and if you're a first-time buyer, you're not alone. 33% of all buyers in the market right now are said to be first-time buyers, which means there are a lot of them out there and looking or getting ready to start their home search right now. And we know that anytime you do something for the first time, you've got questions. What should you expect? How long does the process take? How many homes should I see? Who should I work with? If you've got questions like these, stay tuned. Joining me now to talk about some of the things first-time buyers need to know is Peggy O'Dwyer. She's an associate with RE/MAX Encore in Clarkston. Welcome to the show, Peggy.
Thank you. Good to be here.
Well, it's great to have you. So we know that there's many first-time home buyers or potential first-time home buyers in the market right now. They're either already out there or they're getting ready to jump in. If I were to ask a lot of them what the first step in the home buying process in, I'm guessing a lot of them are going to say, I'm going to go online. I'm going to start looking at houses. I'm going to start seeing what's going on. I get it. It makes sense. What do you think, however, is the first step in the process?
Well, the first thing I like to do is meet with the buyers personally. And that by doing that, I can get a feel for what they're looking for, the areas they're looking in, and just kind of a criteria to work with.
Criteria. So at that point, we're kind of, you're trying to figure out what it is that they want, I'm guessing, right?
Absolutely.
So if I'm a first-time buyer and what you're basically saying is you're trying to, get into the position of being their buyer's agent. You want to work for them and them exclusively.
Right.
And I don't think a lot of first-time buyers maybe understand truly what a buyer's agent is. If they haven't done this before, they may not know. Can you share a little bit about what makes an agent a buyer's agent and why that's beneficial?
Absolutely. The buyer's agent represents the buyer, obviously, but the important part is it's a fiduciary loyalty to the buyer. So the listing agent has the lister's concerns mainly.
Sure.
And my primary concern is the buyer and their needs and negotiating the best price for them, finding the right place for them. And it's imperative really to have representation.
Yeah, it's in your best interest as whether you're the buyer or the seller, you want somebody that's representing your interest. And with buyer agency, which wasn't around years and years ago. So if it's been a while since a parent or a grandparent that's giving you advice is bought, they may not even really understand this whole dynamic.
Exactly.
But the reality of it is, as a buyer, having somebody looking out for mine and only my interests is what that can happen there.
And it's peace of mind.
Absolutely. Well, it's the biggest investment you're going to make, and so you really want someone looking out for you. Now, you mentioned that you prefer to meet with first-time buyers, kind of right away, so you can gauge their interest, understand what they're looking for. A pre-approval is part of that process. Can you kind of share what advice you would give first-time buyers if they were meeting you for the first time, how you would explain that to them?
Pre-approval is imperative. You have to have it in order to make an offer. And it's initially just something that they kind of glance over everything, see what your, say, debt-to-income ratio is, and therefore able to give you an idea what you should be looking in price range. Then they'll come to you later and they'll get more in-depth information. But initially, it's just a pre-approval, but you need that letter of pre-approval. And you should I should have that in my possession when we're looking at homes.
Okay.
So and you can't make an offer without it. So
because realistically, that tells you, as far as their agent, that they're serious.
Yep.
And it's going to ultimately, we'll get into this a little later, it's going to tell sellers that they're serious, which is really what they need.
Yes.
The other side is it also gives them the criteria to know what they can afford, right?
Oh, yes. And quite often, they'll maybe okay you for, say, $250,000, but you're really only comfortable spending $200,000. So, but it's good to know, and you're going to base your offers on that. It makes a huge difference in the long run.
Well, I mean, and you just mentioned you might get approved for one amount,
Definitely.
and if you're a budget type person, if you're more of the analytical numbers person, you maybe have run the numbers yourself and kind of know, well, great that they approved me from here, but I'm only comfortable with the payment at $200,000, let's say, using your example. I remember when my sister was buying a house, she was buying it as a single female, and she called me, she goes, they approved me for X. And she goes, should I be spending that? I'm like, no, 1,000 times no. But again, having somebody that you can run this off of as a first-time buyer, that's where you as a buyer's agent can also help out.
And a good lender, definitely you want to pick your own lender. I have some people that I love to refer to because they're so good. But the lender should also give you a really good idea what your fees are going to be, costs for the loan, and especially if you have a problem with getting a loan, they can tell you how to fix your credit. So it's definitely to your advantage to find someone you're comfortable with, who's very knowledgeable and will work with you.
Well, I think it's an interesting thing because, I mean, obviously it's not a secret, and we're certainly not picking on any generation, but right now millennials make up a large part of the first-time, buyer pool. They just do because of their age. That makes perfect sense. And this is a group that's used to doing everything online. This is a group that's very comfortable buying, purchasing.
Very tech savvy.
Yeah, very tech savvy, and not necessarily, wanting to talk to people necessarily, but it really is in their benefit. While you can find a lender online, while you can, find homes online, it really is to your benefit to talk to a realtor, talk to a lender, explain your situation so that they can give you the best possible advice and scenarios for your particular case.
Right. They'll even bottom line, what everybody's bottom line is. What's my payment going to be?
Is that what they want to know?
That's what they want to know. And seriously, it can make a huge difference with that $50,000.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're talking with Peggy O'Dwyer. She's an associate with RE/MAX Encore in Clarkston. Peggy, I think another thing that can be a challenge for first-time buyers, or maybe this was just me, is understanding what you really need in a house versus what I might just want in a house. And, as an agent, somebody that works with first-time buyers, how would you, if I showed up at your office and said, hey, we're looking to buy a house, how do you help me identify or get clear on what my needs are so that you can do a good job of finding me the home that I want?
The thing is viewing the homes will actually help you to make those decisions and to narrow it down. As a matter of fact, sometimes it's a matter of deciding you're going to spend more because you can't get what you want, and it's that important to you. Sometimes you're going to decide, no, you know what, I don't need that garage that badly. I'll put it on in 10 years. So, it just really depends, but it's good to have that figured out ahead of time.
But it's also, you said you can go out, you can take a look at homes, and that happened to us. Because, we started out, and I was going to have a garage, I was going to have a basement, I was going to have all these things, right? And then I realized in pretty short after going out and looking, apparently I wasn't going to have a basement at all. And if I had a garage, it was going to be one car and it was going to be detached. That became really clear after a month of looking.
Depending on where you're looking, yeah, absolutely.
But it going out did help solidify that. Because when I sat down and said, well, what do you need? Well, in my mind, I needed all of these things. No, I really didn't.
No, and a lot of times people think that when you ask them that, you're going to be able to get that for them, period.
Yeah.
What do you need?
Yeah. You're
okay.
like, I can work magic, but I'm not that big of a magician. So many buyers, especially first-time buyers, are often wanting to know, how many homes on average, do they need to see before they're going to find the one? And I'm going to guess you're going to say that there's no hard and fast rule to that.
No, I have shown many, many homes to some people. I've shown 2 homes to others. But basically, in order to judge what you really want, you do need to compare. You may find that first time out, the home of your dreams, you think. But then you go on to the next one, it's like, oh, but this master bedroom is a little bigger. So it's always good to have something to compare it to.
Yeah, to kind of,
Yep.
pro and con. And if you find that you keep coming back to the first home, then that probably really is the one. If that's the one you're comparing everything else to.
And oftentimes it's a feeling of, this is it.
Yeah. How about male, female? Is there a difference between how they view homes in the process?
Men buy with their heads, their brains. Women buy with their hearts.
Well, I guess that's not a big surprise,
No,
is
but
it?
hopefully you can find a compromise.
Well, we're talking with Peggy O'Dwyer from RE/MAX Encore in Clarkston about first-time buyers. 2 important things that we've shared so far is that first-time buyers need to find a buyer's agent, someone that's got a fiduciary responsibility and is looking out for your interest. The other is to get pre-approved. When we come back, we continue our conversation about first-time buyers and take a look at making an offer. Did you know that every 30 seconds, a RE/MAX agent helps someone find their perfect place? So whether you're looking for your first home or your 7th, we're ready to help you find what's perfect for you. Go to RE/MAXRealEstateInsights.com to find properties or an agent near you. Stay tuned for more RE/MAX Real Estate Insights coming up here on 760 WJR. back with RE/MAX Real Estate Insights on WJR. At least 1/3 of all buyers in the market are first-time buyers, and this means there's going to be thousands of first-time buyers out looking and then purchasing their first home in the coming months. So we're talking first-time buyers and sharing information to help address some common questions they have about the home buying process. I'm your host, Jeanette Schneider, and back with me is Peggy O'Dwyer. She's an associate with RE/MAX Encore in Clarkston. So, Peggy, before the break, we were kind of talking about, how many homes do folks need to see? And you were basically saying it's really going to depend on the situation. Always good to at least see a couple. So even if the first one's the right one, you can put to rest the what ifs.
Yes.
No, I went and I saw a couple things.
And
I am
always
convinced.
have those if they don't.
yeah. I'm convinced the first one really is the right one. I want to kind of switch gears a little bit. I think it's an interesting market that we have right now. Well, for a variety of reasons. Mm-hmm. One of which is we really have three significant demographics or age groups, generations in the market. We've got baby boomers, more than likely downsizing, but we've got Gen X and we've got millennials. So we've got three very distinct groups of people out there, looking. How do you approach this? I mean, do you see the differences between these generations, and how do you kind of work with these different groups?
There are large differences, actually. Millennials, the younger people, they are definitely more tech savvy. And I'm able to send them documents that can be signed right online, which is just a godsend these days. But the older people, they have a little more trouble with that. And sometimes I can walk them through it. Sometimes I have to bring a hard copy and we sign it.
Yeah,
but they are tech savvy, so it makes it a little easier.
Well, in a market like we have right now, I think it really makes it easier because, we're just on the cusp, of the market, in theory, heating up for the busier season. The reality of it is we've seen this the last few years, homes priced right and in good condition go quickly because there's not the supply out there. So to your point about there being tech savvy and communication being critical to get fast response from them to keep a deal moving along, that's important right now from your perspective,
It's
right?
imperative. It is. You have to get out and make time. The day a home goes on the market, if it's interesting to you, you need to see it right now because there's multiple appointments made the moment a home hits the market right now, and possibly multiple offers. So the sooner you get in to see that house, the sooner we can make an offer, and the less chance there'll be multiples.
And the less chance that then potentially you miss out. If as a buyer, I'm not really paying attention to what you're telling me, I need to be in tune.
Right.
Which leads me to ask, as when you're working with first-time buyers, they haven't been through this before, do you talk to them about the importance of communication and timely response and how this is going to play out into the whole scheme of how this process is going to go?
I do. It's really important that they understand that. It's so easy to miss out on an opportunity right now. The sellers are hot and they're told they're going to get top dollar, and they are getting top dollar to a large extent. But a home still has to appraise. So there has to be some reasonable nod to market value.
And that's where a buyer's agent comes in, right? That's where they're because as a buyer, I can get caught up in the emotion. I can get caught up in, I really want this house. I've looked at 10. This is the one. Multiple offers means I have to shoot high on price. Yeah, and now as a buyer's agent, you can kind of tap and say, hey, let's take a look at the whole thing, which leads us nicely to our next point is what should buyers expect when it's time to make an offer?
Well, I like to sit them down and do what we call a comparative market analysis on the property that they're interested in, which shows them whether it's appropriately priced or not really. It's also a time when we discuss everything from the appliances that are going to come with it to just everything. Every portion of it needs to be discussed in advance so that they can have an idea in mind what they want to offer. I can't tell them what to offer, but I can definitely give them good, solid advice.
And you say it starts with a market analysis where, now this time you're taking a look at what's going on in the market and you're saying, hey, here's what homes have been selling for. So that can kind of help guide them in the price that they're ultimately going to offer, both from what makes sense from not paying too much and also what's going to, from an appraisal, like you just mentioned. We have to keep both of those items in mind.
Absolutely. And it's contingent on inspection too. So that's what we're going to do is sit down and put together our best possible offer. And nowadays, I try to keep in mind that this might be our only chance to offer.
So you have to kind of lead with where in the past, I think it was more common for, well, I'll offer X because they're probably going to come down and we'll meet in the middle at Y. And that's fine as a tactic. But in a market where there's multiple offers, you may not get a chance to make another offer. So you have to really come in solid with your first one.
The first thing I do is I call the listing agent and make sure that I know if there's multiple offers, or any offers on the table at that point, because that is going to definitely change our thinking as opposed to what we come in with.
Sure. I mean, in knowing, again, a buyer's agent doing a good job for someone. We're talking with Peggy O'Dwyer, an associate with RE/MAX Encore in Clarkston. Can you talk to me a little bit about concessions? Because that's a word that gets thrown out there, and I'm not sure that a lot of first-time buyers really understand what that is.
Concessions, yes, it's like another language a lot of the time, but that is mainly that's an amount of money that the seller is going to provide, not the buyer. The seller is going to provide, which comes directly off the top of whatever we're offering them, to help the buyers with their fees and their costs that are always incurred with a loan.
Okay, and I think that they've been popular might be a strong word, but I mean, there have been something that they've been kind of routine to some degree in a lot of real estate deals. Is this something you still see today with it being more of a seller's market? Are concessions still happening out there?
Not as much, but I think the sellers are becoming a little more savvy too, in that you might sweeten the pot a little bit just so you can get those closing costs. And that way you got more for your down payment. You've got more in your pocket for repairs. So ultimately, if you can get those concessions, that's a wonderful thing to have.
So I think I missed that when we bought our first house, but it's too late to go back and fix that problem. So let's talk about earnest money deposits, because that's something else that you can give some guidance on depending on the situation involved. So talk to us a little bit about how that comes into play.
Earnest money is money you put forward in good faith along with your offer. And generally, it used to be maybe $500,000, $1,000. Well, now if you've got, say, multiple offers coming in and one person's giving you a check for $5,000 towards that earnest money deposit, which incidentally goes directly towards the sale of the home.
So it's not lost money.
It's not lost money. But if somebody else is only offering you $1,000, you're much more likely to take that offer that has the concrete $5,000 deposit. That's then put into escrow until the actual closing. And ultimately, they can get it back if they have a really good reason to back out. A lot of that is contractual, though.
Yeah, so. Contracts are going to dictate that. So in essence, it's basically you're coming to the table saying, I really want to buy this house. Here's, I'm putting some money down to show my sign of good faith that I'm serious about this. And in a market like we have right now, putting a little more down as a show of good faith could bode better for you as the buyer for that house.
I look at that when I'm taking offers. So yes.
Okay. And so then let's say that we've sat down, you've had all of this conversation, with your buyers, and now it comes time for you to present the offer. Can you just give us an overview of how that part of it works?
We would sit down, we'd decide on our price, and that would be part of the purchase agreement, which also tells you what's included in it. It also asks us for an inspection, and it's contingent on that inspection. It has to be an inspection that the buyer is satisfied with. Otherwise, you can go back to the table. And but then we also have seller's disclosures. Those actually are the paperwork that the seller puts together, indicative of how the home is kept, how old this, that, and the other thing might be. Does it need flood insurance? What appliances are included? What's not included? Mm-hmm. And that's obviously supposed to be a very honest insight into the home. That needs to be signed. I love to put together just a bio on my people.
Awesome. So a bio to kind of talk to them about who the buyers are, pull at the heartstrings a little bit, make a personal connection.
Yes.
Awesome. Well, Peggy, we're running out of time, but thank you so much for stopping by today. That's Peggy O'Dwyer, an associate with RE/MAX Encore in Clarkston. We appreciate your sharing information on first-time buyers. Also, thanks to Robert Boyle from the Furniture Bank of Southeastern Michigan for helping make us aware of his worthy organization and how we truly can help others. We know that buying or selling a home is the largest single investment many folks have, so it makes sense you want to know as much much as possible about what's happening in today's market. That's really the reason we do this show. We want you to be in the loop. RE/MAX agents close more deals and have more experience than other agents, making them the perfect choice for you when it comes time to buy or sell. Just go to RE/MAXRealEstateInsights.com to find an agent or property near you. And join us again next Thursday at 7 p.m. for another edition of RE/MAX Real Estate Insights here on 760 WJR.